reside, cracking codes to flip the tide. Zeros and ones on battle cry. System fall, we watch them die. Hack-Attack, no turning back. Red meets blue in the cyber attack. Firewall burns, the signals cracked. Hack-Attack, yeah.
They told us Real ID was about flying safer, but when the upload portal becomes the checkpoint, you better ask who's watching the gate and what else they're scanning. Alright, quick debrief. The Real ID Act, born in the aftershock of 9/11, right? Word on the street was the terrorists gamed the totally inconsistent ID systems across states, and the feds needed a fix. So Congress kicks out the Real ID Act in 2005. But let's not kid ourselves. This wasn't a high-drama, televised congressional debate. Real ID was tacked onto a must-pass spending bill, jammed through like a Trojan horse, barely a whimper of public discussion. Suddenly, we had federal standards for your most basic credential, driver's licenses, and state IDs. The law cranked up requirements for every state, stricter document verification, connected state databases, and some shiny new anti-fraud features. A unified system, at least on paper. But what's the real story here? Compliance is the carrot, but the stick's hidden in the infrastructure. The rules force states to play ball, or the residents get locked out of domestic flights in federal buildings. Political blowback was intense. Red states shouting about states' rights, blue states warning about privacy threats. Yet here we are, years and billions of dollars later, and enforcement is finally real. Or, well, Real ID. That's just table stakes. The law might have started with border security and terror prevention, but how fast did it pivot to a digital dragnet? That's what we're unpacking. Alright, boots on the ground. How are these Real ID systems playing out? If you're in Colorado, for example, welcome to the My Colorado app. That slick little piece of software lets you upload your docs remotely, scan bills, birth records, the whole data buffet. In fact, in more and more states, renewals and applications are going straight digital. You don't even need to stand in line at the DMV. Just hit upload, and your info's in the system. Digital ID? Check. Digital renewal? Double check. And the kicker, now you can share your identity with law enforcement on a traffic stop using a QR code, all with a handshake between your phone and theirs. Sounds like future is now stuff, but look, convenience is the camouflage here. Every document you upload, that's another breadcrumb. You're building a digital dossier, not just a driver's license file. What the system claims is accessibility, skip the wait, skip the paper, is really just a streamlined compliance trap. The process trains you to obey, to normalize sharing even the most sensitive parts of your life through web forms and camera snaps. It's frictionless, but that doesn't mean it's harmless. I mean, how much do we really think about what happens when you hit submit on those portals? The real magic trick is you barely notice the sleight of hand. You're trading privacy for access, and the more seamless it feels, the more invisible the shift in control. Okay, let's peel the layers off this onion. Centralized identity means centralized vulnerability, period. Real ID's premise is one credential linking every single aspect of your verified life. One juicy, centralized target. Think about hackers, insider threats, even just bureaucratic error. A single breach here, millions of fully verified, government-trusted identities leaked, copied, sold, weaponized. Then there's the phishing overlap. You know those urgent government portals, upload this, verify that, filled with official-looking requests and mysterious progress bars? Classic scam logic. The only thing separating the legit site from a bait-and-switch is a lock icon and a .gov address. These portals are just begging for nation-state actors and criminals to spin up doppelganger sites. But hey, why stop at digital docs? The next evolution is already looming. Biometrics, AI, blockchains. Your face, your fingerprint, your walk, woven right into that Real ID universe. It's a short jump from scan this QR code at a traffic stop to submit your facial signature for everyday access. The more data they collect, the less room there is for daily anonymity, and opting out becomes science fiction. So the real creep isn't so much in the tech, it's in how fast the normalization happens. QR codes replace questions, compliance replaces curiosity. The script gets flipped on what it means to be a private citizen. But let's get inside the patrol car for a second. Take Colorado State Patrol. They're on the bleeding edge with this digital acceptance thing. 1.3 million people apparently registered with the My Colorado app, right? But in reality, the number of times cops actually use the digital scan, let's just say it's not often. Like in 2023, State Patrol logged under 200 QR scans. Yep, out of over 1 million registrations. Why? Because when people get pulled over, most still just hand over the plastic card. Simple muscle memory. And for the officers, when it does work, yeah, it's slick. Scan the code, see the info, no fumbling for lost cards down in the seat crack. Plus, supposedly they can spot a suspended license immediately, which is a step up from only finding out when they run it back at the car. But now for the friction. Dead zones. No signal? Now both parties are stuck. Cops log into work phones, people fumble with apps. Tech promise meets analog reality. US has plenty of spots with zero service. Also, the adoption isn't universal. Out of over 200 agencies in Colorado, just 17 play in the digital ID sandbox. For most officers, plastic IDs aren't going away anytime soon. Bottom line, digital ID could speed things up, but right now, the real world still runs on old school habits and patchy cell towers. Now, let's raise the long lens and talk about network effects. Standardized, machine-readable Real IDs set up cross-state data flows, private data zipped from DMV to DMV or to whoever's writing the biggest check. Officially, there's no national database, just shared protocols and interconnected state databases. But critics point out unified standards mean easier, frictionless tracking and data sharing. The barrier isn't the law, it's the weakest tech in the system. And let's not brush aside the potential for scope creep. The machine-readable zone? That's built for tracking. Every time your Real ID gets swiped or scanned, it's a new entry, a new data sale, a bigger shadow profile. Today it's boarding a flight. Tomorrow, banking, healthcare, or who knows what. The list can change on the government's say-so. The American Civil Liberties Union and others warn, officially the law says Real ID isn't national, but in practice, when private business and federal mandates collide, it all starts looking like a national ID system. Advocates say once this infrastructure lights up, it's almost trivial to retrofit it to new official purposes over the years. The real risk is less about public policy and more about quietly expanding the surveillance apparatus. No votes, just new checkboxes on a TSA form. I want to stop here because this is the part where the script flips. Is Real ID even fighting the battles that matter? Critics are saying Real ID is stuck in yesteryear, obsessed with old-school fraud and terrorist plots, while the real action's now in deepfakes and generative AI. Financial institutions are seeing a tsunami of suspicious activity in 2023 and 2024. Thanks to AI, criminals fake up identities that blow past traditional verification. Deepfakes aren't just photoshopped headshots anymore. They're animated, real-time, and they already break through mainstream fraud detection tools. No surprise, analysts project U.S. fraud losses could hit $40 billion by 2027. Meanwhile, legacy ID systems like Real ID don't move fast enough to keep up. The U.S. doesn't even have a cohesive digital ID plan. Other countries are running circles around us on this. So, sure, Real ID plugs the leaks from the last war. But in today's meta, new attack surfaces, smart AI, synthetic IDs, systemic phishing, just keep broadening. Until we upgrade the whole digital identity fabric, we're just patching potholes while an autonomous semi barrels down the road. So, let's close with the part nobody wants to talk about. Follow the money. States are on the hook for Real ID implementation, and we're talking real cash. NYCLU estimates tens of millions a year for New York alone, all unfunded by Washington. Now layer in this. As more private businesses jump in, airlines, banks, maybe your pharmacy, you wake up and suddenly you need a Real ID just to function. It becomes mandatory by default, even for things that have nothing to do with federal security. The whole thing becomes a star on your card and a node in someone else's network. All your movement, all your compliance leaves metadata breadcrumbs everywhere. Here's my personal punchline. If you don't control the telescope, somebody else is mapping your world. The battle isn't just about what's in the database. It's about who builds the constellation. Alright, that's my tactical breakdown on Real ID. Next time, we'll slice up how deepfakes, AI, and privacy advocates are redrawing the lines of authentication and trust. Until then, keep your signal tight and your metadata messy.
The whispers, a data stream, codes the canvas, paint the scheme. We're the ghosts inside the machine. Nothing's safe, not even your dream.